You're entering Corsi Nation.
This is Jerome Corsi, and today it is Tuesday, September 23rd. Thank you for joining us here on CorsiNation.com. We're doing podcasts every weekday. You can follow us on X at Corsi Jerome, the number 1. You can follow us on Substack, JeromeCorsiPhD.substack.com. Okay, I want to cover a number of subjects today. I want to start out with the Copia Port E developments, of which there are some significant ones. We'll be doing much more on Copia Port E. Epic Times has done a couple of interviews with Todd Callender, who is my friend and co-author. We did the book Disease X together. And Copia Port E just received on September 11th and 12th the Environmental Evaluation Commission approval in Chile. This is of Chile's Atacama region for approved the $450 million port project. It's owned by Copiaport Operaciones Maritimas, a company that is backed by the Chiricahua Apache Indigenous Nation, and the insurance entity owned by Todd Callender also has rights with the Chiricahua Apache to develop the port. The port is situated in a natural breakwater area with depths of 30 meters, so it can receive the large Chinamac-class ships without the need to dredge the seabed. Now, that's an advantage even over the ports in Chile. There's a port in Peru. There's also San Antonio port being developed in Argentina. But of the three on the Pacific, the one with the most natural advantages is Copia Port E. I think ultimately all three ports will be developed, and South America is going to emerge as a leader as it becomes more developed. South America today is a underdeveloped nation, but it's going to change. What we're seeing, and here's Chris is showing you some of the material here on the Copia Port E and some of the strategic advantages, etc. And I think you'll see that the Copia Port E has a lot of reasons why its development is going to be extremely important. It's also coveted by the Chinese. If the Chinese take over Copia Port E, they're going to have a major hold on shipping out of South America. And China is developing a complex nature of interlocking ports all across the Southern Hemisphere. While the United States has been not active in port acquisition, China has acquired over 100 ports very recently, and is seen to, is looking at this Belt and Road Initiative as one which will establish a Southern Hemisphere trading network that will take a lot of the now underdeveloped world, Africa and South America included. Let's move on to the New Jersey gubernatorial race. There was a major development in the contest. It's between the Republican candidate, Jack Ciattarelli, and he had a debate here with his opponent, is Democratic Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill at Rider University. And the debate was a typical far-reaching debate with taxes, housing, cost of living, education, tariffs, etc. But Sherrill really decided to mock Ciattarelli while bragging about her perceived prospects in the race, which, by the way, is now in a pretty much of a dead heat, according to the polls. Now, Ciattarelli kept his cool, and he said he dropped a bombshell. He said, Ciattarelli said, there's another big difference between her public service and my public service. It actually cost me money with the amount of time I put in as a state rep and took away from my company. And then Ciattarelli really delivered the blow that could end Sherrill's campaign. He said, in the 7 years she's been in Congress, she's tripled her net worth. That's another big difference between the two of us. She broke the law. She had to pay fines for violating federal law on stock trades and stock reporting. And the New York Times reports that while you're sitting on the House Armed Services Committee, he was telling to Sherrill, you were trading defense stocks. Well, now that's a pretty major accusation. And even the New York Times was calling Sherrill out for the wrongdoing. And again, it's questionable whether Sherrill's campaign will end, whether the Department of Justice is going to open up an investigation into her, which they should. Of course, there's criticism of Pam Bondi that's increasing. We find that Donald Trump is now saying that Pam Bondi doesn't begin to start indicting some people, that Pam Bondi's time as Attorney General may be short-lived. That's what he's suggesting. And this is a clear case. I mean, if New Jersey has the potential to get a Republican governor, it would be a major blow to the Democratic Party. And I think I'm seeing increasing warnings from within the Democratic Party to realize that the Democratic Party is dead in the water with its current agenda. I mean, really, seriously, the woke agenda is completely now, I think, especially after Charlie Kirk's assassination, the left is being seen as insane violent. If AOC is going to be the presidential candidate for the Democratic Party in 2028, I don't know how they're going to get anybody to vote for them. I mean, the Democrats are in trouble. Reports are coming out pretty much all over the place. Even CNN's Enton, who is somewhat Harry Enton, is supposed to be the CNN's data guru. He warned the Democrats on Monday that they're in definite trouble with Democratic voters. I'm going to put that story here for Chris in the chat so he can pick it up. Here we go. If you take a look at the numbers, Enton was looking at the statistics saying that Republicans are leading in the economy by 7. Immigration, the Republicans are leading by 13. How about crime? A big issue for Donald Trump and Republicans leading by 22 points. We can compare this back to 2022, and the Democrats then had the lead on the even on many of these issues. Certainly in 2020, Democrats were not yet exposed as the extreme party. The Democrats today running on issues. In fact, we might just play a little bit. Well, we won't play the video, but the video is up on CNN. Chris is showing it to you. You can watch it in the story on mediate.com. It's a story running today by Jennifer Bowers, Bahney, Bahney. So the Democrats are, they're for supporting illegal immigrants, for criminal gangs from Venezuela, for wanting to release prisoners from jails, unfund the police. I mean, all the things that the Democrats want to do are chaos. That's why President Trump has got the troops now in cities like Washington, D.C., New Orleans, and in Memphis. That list is going to expand. And by the way, I'm told President Trump is preparing a new executive order to come out on the voting issue, and that's going to reflect what we have on gods5stones.com. Gods5stones.com is moving into new areas. We're going to start covering the issue of, number one, much more on this whole issue of child sex trade and child organ harvesting and organ harvesting in general. So you can see gods5stones.com has gone into Act Blue, the political corruption in Act Blue. We've gone into issues of the child corruption, the whole issue of exploitation of children, the oppression of the Chinese, are just notorious Communist Party Chinese for exploiting various groups that are considered to be not supporting the CCP, Zongdong, with all these different groups that are not approved by the Communist Party in concentration camps, etc. Coming out of the race here, in terms of looking at the politics, they're talking about the New Jersey governor race and also talking about Charlie Kirk and how these things go together. I want to emphasize again the importance of this book I've written, which is The Truth About Neo-Marxism, Cultural Maoism, and Anarchy. And the subtitle is the Exposing Woke Insanity in an Age of Disinformation. We're in an age of lying right now. We're in an age of where truth is hard to get across because of the amount of woke lying that we've had. This book is essential in understanding how we are today in neo-Marxism. Marxism failed. The original Marxism idea that workers of the world were going to revolt did not happen. But the hatred of capitalism is so intense that communism morphed, starting with Gramsci, saying, well, we're going to attack the culture of capitalism, which is working, and it's enslavement. It's Rousseau. People are born free, but everywhere they're in chains because of government and the need to work. And what this does is it produces cultural Maoism, where you have a attack on the society. In the Frankfurt School championed the idea of reading Freud into Karl Marx to say that the only liberation of human beings was going to be this uninhibited sexuality. Eros in Civilization was the book that Marcuse wrote in the 1960s, saying essentially we've got to have uninhibited eros, love, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And that will free us. No, it does. What it does is it produces anarchy. And if you understand today how the nature of what we're experiencing is this anarchistic destruction of all that is good in human civilization, all that has allowed us to build a society capable of supporting billions of people on Earth, which these people hate, because at its heart, it's a satanic cult. At its heart, it's the Garden of Eden story with Satan saying, don't eat that. You've got to eat that. God doesn't want you to eat that tree, the fruit, the apple of that tree, because then you'll know what God knows. And, God knows that he failed. I'll show you how to make all this work. That fruit there will free you because it'll bring you into sharing what I know. Okay. And then we will create the perfect world here. No, communism and Maoism always result in anarchy, such that if they did take over, the transhumans would be the survivors. The small group of people who think that they are the current Übermensch, Nietzsche term, superhumans, and they're entitled to be transhuman, post-human, where they can combine with computers and have a new intelligence and have organ harvesting and live forever. The rest of the people, like this author Harari says, are worthless. We're just a story, a myth, a word game to define that human beings have value. He said, you cut into a human being, you see the blood and the bones and the skin. You don't see a soul. So this whole thing denies that there's any soul to humans or there's any individual value to human beings. And at its core is a depopulationist. Henry Kissinger in the 1970s with National Security Memorandum 200 made global depopulation the official policy of the United States. What I can say is that globalism is failing. There's an article right now on Zero Hedge, and Zero Hedge is quite good to follow, by the way, saying the UN is facing huge budget costs and job losses because the U.S. funding is drying up. So it's going to need the United Nations says we'll need to cut $500 million from the 2026 budget and lay off 20% of its staff because Trump has eliminated $1 billion in total funding from the UN. Trump should just eliminate all the funding from the UN. Okay, the plan is likely to involve an initial minimum 3,000 job cuts of a 35,000 strong main workforce with eventual job losses at 7,000. The overall core UN budget would be cut from $3.7 million billion to about 3.2 billion next year. Okay, well, it's going to be even more than that. I think we should quit funding the UN altogether. All the UN does is support the sustainability and the Palestinian state and every other bad idea that the globalists want to put into effect in order to destroy the viability of the United States of America. We're the last country in the world supporting freedom and the dignity of the human being coming from God. And if the attack on God is successful, then the human race is lost. Nuclear war will be inevitable because these monsters will see no hesitation at all to eliminate billions of dollars from the world by having a nuclear war where they can use all the resources of the world for themselves and their machines, and they won't have to work. They can organ harvest and they can live forever. That was a discussion between Putin and Xi Jinping that was picked up on microphone recently. It's an insane agenda. And if you've got to take a look at this book in order to see how, in fact, what Charlie Kirk was representing in return to God, in return to the dignity of human beings, in this woke agenda and its insanity of general dystopia, genital mutilation of children means they're never going to have an organism, they're never going to reproduce. And that's the goal, is to reduce the world population. Okay, and the insanity of this goal leads to wars that could easily escalate into nuclear wars, as is the case in Ukraine. In the Ukraine war, Trump is evidently going to be meeting with Zelensky at the United Nations when he gives a speech. I think that may be today. And I doubt if Zelensky's now bracing to go it alone with Ukraine because the world support for this war is drying up. At the same time, the Israelis are pressing on Gaza City and are going to have a major effort in Gaza City to make sure that Hamas never returns. That predicates itself upon Israel taking control of the Gaza. There never was a Palestinian state. It's a myth. Palestine was the name the British gave to Israel today, and it included the Palestinians were Jews, they were Muslims, they were, any people who lived there were Palestinians. In 1948, the Jews did not require the Muslims to leave Israel. There are many still there. And there are many even represented in the Knesset today. So the whole misinformation about Israel, which leads to this anti-Semitism, and is at its core dangerous. Israel has a right to survive, and putting the Palestinians back and putting Hamas back will just perpetuate the 30 or 40 years we've had of Hamas and the Palestinian Authority controlling Gaza and lobbing missiles into Israel. There's only so much Israel can do to tolerate that and allowing it to continue. There's an interesting story I want to cover today about Robert Kennedy and Donald Trump announcing that Tylenol is dangerous for pregnant women to take because it can be associated with inducing autism. And Robert Kennedy, I think, has been on this theme for a long time. Vaccines, etc. That this acetaminophen, which again is risky for pregnant women. The autism rates today are way off the charts historically, and there's no reason for it. I think the vaccines, drugs, all of this is I'm very much enthused and encouraged to see that Robert Kennedy is staying on this agenda. I know he's facing tremendous pressure from Big Pharmacy that would like nothing better than for Robert Kennedy to retire or leave or resign. I don't think that's going to happen in the short term. I think Donald Trump, by siding with Kennedy on this acetaminophen warning and Tylenol, is indicating that Trump is on the Make America Healthy Again agenda. And that's something that I think is going to be a challenge but something that's going to be needed to be advanced. And what I'm saying is that we are facing here a situation in which the United States has got to take hold of the population, obesity, the cancer rates, all of these things which are induced by diet and by where we're headed. Chris, you had there the clip of Donald Trump. Maybe we can play that clip for just a minute or two of Donald Trump's on the press conference. You had that from X. You also flashed up George Soros and his son, which are behind a lot of the chaos and disorder we've seen. So let's see if we can hear a minute or two of what Donald Trump had to say.
There are some studies that suggest. And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism. That have no autism. Does that tell you something? That's currently, is that a correct statement, by the way? There are some studies that suggest that, yeah, with the Amish, for example. The Amish, yeah, virtually. I heard none. See, Bobby wants to be very careful with what he says. And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no.
Okay, so I think, Donald Trump is clearly on the agenda. And I think Donald Trump is understanding that, we need to make America healthy again. And I'm pleased to see him doing that. The Amish do not have, all the masking and the COVID vaccines and the pharmaceutical drugs. We don't need these things to be healthy. I'm not saying that there are not uses of medications. There may be. But again, the point is, we can't think that we're going to solve all of our health problems by taking pills and going to surgery.
So I've been waiting for this meeting for 20.
Well, that's more from Donald Trump. He has been waiting for this for a long time. And I think Donald Trump in his second term is very much doing what I thought he would do. And that is he's now at the point where he's, they tried to assassinate him twice and he survived. And Donald Trump, I think now is going to do what he needs to do to clean this country up. And I applaud him for it. I just pray for his safety, especially in a world where he's going after who funds Antifa, making Antifa is now declared a terrorist group. There are others that will be terrorist groups. I've just got to see where the Department of Justice is. Why aren't we moving more rapidly to indict people? Okay, gold today is at $3,801 an ounce. Gold now has broken the $3,800 barrier. As I said earlier last week, gold was trading at $3,500, a $300 increase per ounce in just a few days. The world understands that Europe is about to implode economically. It's too much debt. We have too much debt, 37 trillion in debt and mounting. And Donald Trump's probably going to have to come to an agreement with the Democrats to continue spending, or we won't get a continuing resolution and the government will shut down. I've been saying just shut down the government permanently. And I think a lot of people are coming to an agreement. Put the entire bureaucracy in Death Valley and give them all the quantum huts and solar and wind power they want. And that's the only way to get them to quit. Silver's at $44 an ounce, $44.67. I'm telling you, gold will be at $4,000 an ounce before the end of the year. So, Chris, go to Swiss America on the website, and I'm imploring you to take advantage of the Swiss America deal. It's on our website. All you have to do is fill out the form. If you're a first-time customer, you can get a one-time offer of buying up to 250 of these Walking Liberty half-dollar coins, which are almost pure silver. And they are going to appreciate in value faster than gold. It's going to take a lot less time for gold to hit $88 or $90 an ounce than for gold to go to $4,000 to $8,000 an ounce. And it costs a lot less to buy silver. So you can get a faster appreciation and a cheaper investment. There's no reason not to do it. Swiss America will coach you through it, and your silver will appreciate in value. If you have some silver, including in your IRAs, if you've got an IRA or any kind of 401k or investment account, talk to Swiss America about whether you can make that self-directed so you can put some portion of your retirement funds in gold and silver, not in the stock market. Stock market is at all-time highs right now, and that should be a warning signal to everybody that it's not going to last. Okay, I want to wrap up today, but I might want to cover just one more thing, and that is that, the Kimmel Show is back. It was really just suspended. All the, free speech screamers saying, "Oh, we can't take Kimmel off the air." Well, ABC is putting him back on because, the whole idea is that, sure, let him have a show, but the point is, his ratings are going to go south. Okay, and you had 400 artists signing an ACLU letter in response to Kimmel's firing. He was suspended. He wasn't fired. Okay, so now you're going to have Kimmel back and platform. You have got CNN and others still out there. But again, who's listening? Around the Charlie Kirk Memorial, the Republican registration to vote surged. And I think even attendance in church surged, probably temporarily, but it did. The Americans are beginning to understand the nature of the spiritual warfare. And I'd say, yes, let Kimmel have his platform. But again, if the only thing we have on nighttime television is anti-America, anti-God, anti-Trump, snarky humor, anti-American, well, that's not right either. We need to have some balance. We need to have some, and company like Nexstar or Sinclair affiliates not carrying the show, I think indicates that there are some out there yet who are saying that disinformation is on the left, as violence is on the left. In the end, God always will win. God always wins. God's going to win here. It's going to be a battle, but I think if we fight the battle the way the Bible instructs us to fight the battle, which is 2 Chronicles 7:14, let's get on our knees. Let's ask God to forgive us for letting the country get to this condition. This is Dr. Jerome Corsi, and we'll be back with CorsiNation.com tomorrow, every day, every weekday. We thank you very much for joining us. Spread the word about the show, and thank you for joining us. God bless.